Bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong. This is Joe, the bearded historian. He'll tell you an interesting story. Be careful of his soldiers, they can be brats. This is Angel, she's an entity. She'll cause chaos and plant her hands at you. This is Sue, she likes spirits, not the alcohol. She's the reason this channel exists. This is David, he likes fire trucks. He's here occasionally. Bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong. We preserve his story. Morning. Oh, by the time you see this, it'll be afternoon. Welcome to Wednesday. We're going to do our shout out. Are you ready? Go. Shout out time. Here's a shout out just for you. You support me, so I support you. The shout out is for our friend. See who it is? Okay, today we're choosing a doggy race with greyhounds. Alright, there go the doggos. I see Moon, I see Maz, there's Freckle, there's Buddha, there's Ace Base, Heather and Buying, and Myers and Southern. Moon's currently in the lead. There's Griffins and Verna and Yoga and C, 40 and Trending and Afromax and Eddie and Dave Camping and Contact and Woody. Looks like we got Visiting currently in the lead. Moon's catching up again. Southern's not far behind. There's my Linda. Oh, here comes the Journey from Wayback. Grumpy's catching up. Grumpy's fairly new to our channel. Stays. Mona. Tails. Oh, it looks like it's Mike's Chaotic Keto. Hold on a minute. Okay, first of all, I need to apologize. I mixed up two channels. It's not Mike's Chaotic Keto Journey. It's Mike's Chaotic Gardening. I got two of them confused. Mostly because they're right there next to each other. But we're going to this one. And it says, love gardening, and due to my zone 4 area, I grow something like that once a year, but enjoy growing outside when I can. And so I guess maybe that's indoor gardening. I'll have to look up that word. I'm not sure what that means. But he's got a very fun channel. I don't know what that is. But lots of gardening, cooking. So check him out. Like, share, comment. Have a good day. Alright, Mr. Bud, what are you going to tell us?
Well, today, the 25th, even though this will be broadcast tomorrow, is an anniversary of a birth of a great running back, and he is not a Raider.
Uh-oh.
Surprisingly enough, this is Walter Payton's birthday. Now, for those of you who know the NFL, Walter Payton was kind of a legend. I mean, the guy held the record for the most rushing yards. He set several records all on his own. He was part of a team that wound up winning the Super Bowl one year. Started out at a tiny little school called Jackson State University. Was an All-American there. But we're going to go over some of the details. He's a heck of a story here. First of all, one of 3 kids, born in Columbia, Mississippi. Started out active member of the Boy Scouts, Little League, local church. He played drums in the marching band, took part in track, and even sang in the school choir. His brother Eddie, interestingly enough, was already on the football team, but Walter didn't play, partly to avoid competing with him. But once Eddie graduated, the football coach asked Payton to try out for the team, and he agreed on the condition he would be allowed to continue playing in the band. Well, once he began to play football as a junior, he pretty much was like lightning in a bottle. He ran for 65 yards for a touchdown on his first carry. At 5'10", he wasn't especially large, but that speed and strength made him one of the team's featured players. Later, when John J. Jefferson High School integrated with the neighboring Columbia High School, the efforts turned out to be even better. He earned statewide honors as a member on the Mississippi's All-State team and led Columbia to an unexpected 8-2 season. Performance helped ease the tensions locally regarding desegregation. The coach, Tommy Davis, said he could always count on Payton when the team needed to score. Payton's statistic proved that was no exaggeration. He scored in every game during his junior and senior years. He was named to the All-Conference team 2 years in a row. Payton also led the Little Dixie Conference in scoring his senior year and made that All-State team. In addition to excelling at football, he also scored 18 points per game for the Columbia's basketball team, leaped 3/4 of an inch short of 23 feet in the long jump, played baseball, and continued to drum in the school band. Well, even though he'd established himself as one of the best Mississippi prospects for running backs, he got no invitations from the Southeastern Conference colleges. Originally committing to Kansas State University, he decided to go with a collegiate career at a historically black school, Jackson State, where his older brother Eddie played football. Well, while attending Jackson State, Payton played among many future professional football players like his roommate, Ricky Young, Jerome Barkham, Robert Brazell, and Jackie Slater. As a member of the Tigers, he would rush for 3,600 yards and picked up a total of 6 yards per carry. Now, in the NFL, you're having a good day if you average 4 yards per carry. He was doing 6 in college. Total of 63 yards rushing. And he also had kicking duties, which is kind of funny because he got 53 extra points, and he also made 5 field goals. His best overall game came in 1972 on September the 23rd when they pretty much crushed a school called Lane College. He would wind up rushing for 7 touchdowns at 6, 8, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 31 yards, and 2-point conversions for 46 points all by himself. They destroyed the school 72-0. He also set the school record with 279 yards rushing in that game alone. Well, after playing a fair share of football, 63 touchdowns, 3,600 yards, pros were going to be the next step up. The Chicago Bears decided to take a shot at him in the first round as the 4th overall pick in the 1975 draft. Originally, he was assigned the number 21 on the team, but switched to 34 before the season started. Now, the Chicago Bears had their issues with losses of players. Gale Sayers, one of their iconic players, retired in '72. Payton's first game, not particularly successful. He got 0 net rushing yards on 8 attempts. Best performance, though, for the season was his final game against New Orleans. He picked up 134 yards on 20 carries. He had finished the season with 679 yards, but he had 7 touchdowns. He also led the league in yards per kickoff return. Well, eager to improve on that performance during the '76 season, he would pick up 1,390 yards and almost double the number of touchdowns, up to 13. After that year, he was selected to play in the 1977 Pro Bowl, and he was declared the Pro Bowl MVP. Now, this is before the Pro Bowl kind of became a circus that it is nowadays. The next year, though, he would wind up picking up 1,852 yards, scoring 16 touchdowns, and became the league's leading scorer for the season. Normally, your scorers are going to be your field goal kickers, your wide receivers, guys like that. He also earned numerous awards that season, including the Associated Press and Pro Football Writers of America Most Valuable Player Awards. A memorable game in the '77 season. Against the Vikings, he pretty much went ballistic. Interestingly enough, he was also suffering from a 101-degree fever and intense flu. He would pick up 275 yards, breaking the previous record held by O.J. Simpson. His longest run was 58 yards, and he even caught a pass for 6 more yards. His record would stand for 23 years until Corey Dillon of the Bengals would break it with 278 yards in 2000. Right now, the record is currently held by Adrian Peterson of the Vikings, although that needs to be updated because he's no longer with the Vikings, in 2007. By the end of the decade, Payton had received additional accolades for his exploits as a blocker, a receiver, emergency punter, and he's even pushed into service as a quarterback. Well, the Bears were, struggling to assemble consecutive winning seasons. Since his arrival, back in '75, they'd managed to reach the playoffs only twice. The Bears management finally had enough with the efforts of Neil Armstrong as a coach and went out and got Mike Ditka for the job in the fall of 1982. Now, Ditka, who was originally a Bear tight end back in the 60s and 70s and had also joined the Hall of Fame, got the Bears a strike-shortened record of 3-6. But the following year, he led the Bears to an 8-8 finish in '83 and then a 10-6 finish in '84. Well, Payton continued to rush for more than 1,400 yards in both seasons, and in September of 1984, Payton passed Franco Harris as the active leader in career rushing yards. 3 weeks later, against the Saints, he would also break Jim Brown's career rushing record of 12,312 yards. 85, Payton would rush for more than 1,500 yards, helping the Bears establish the league's second-best offense with the emergence of quarterback Jim McMahon. A Bears 46 defense, which let's just say is probably one of the most legendary defenses that's ever been known. Literally, they had a defensive guy who was acting as the opposing quarterback, and he would bark out signals to his own guys, and it really messed up other teams. The Bears would go ahead, and that year they went 15-1 in '85. Pretty much culminated with a blowing out of the New England Patriots, 46-10 in the Super Bowl. And those of you who are extremely old like me remember the Super Bowl shuffle in those days. Payton's offensive prowess during the season, was pretty much their bread and butter. When it came to the playoffs, Payton was covered like a blanket. It was almost impossible to throw to him. He didn't score any touchdowns in the postseason, and New England seemed to go out of their way to make sure he would never even get the ball. According to the quarterback, Jim McMahon, he was targeted by 2 to 3 defenders on every play, and all others even stated that Payton's mere presence allowed other players to shine. One particular footnote of that Super Bowl was when Refrigerator Perry, big guy, actually rushed for a touchdown in that Super Bowl. And everybody's like, why didn't they give it to Payton? Well, pretty much because everybody else figured Payton was going to be getting it. In a later interview, Ditka stated that one of his major regrets was Payton's lack of a touchdown in that Super Bowl. Well, Payton, who was a 12-year veteran, amassed 1,333 yards the following season. The Bears would win the NFC Central Division, but then they lost to the Redskins in the divisional round. At the end of the '86 season, he announced that he would retire from football after completing the '87 season. Now, during that last season with the Bears, Payton would split carries with his successor, Neil Anderson, rushed for a career-low 533 yards along with 4 touchdowns. Payton's career would end with another loss to the Washington Redskins in 1988, January 10th. Over his career, Payton would rush for 16,726 yards, which broke the record for the most rushing yards by any NFL player in history, and he scored 110 touchdowns. He caught 492 passes for 4,538 yards, an additional 15 touchdowns. Payton set several team records, including most career yards, career rushing yards, receptions, touchdowns, touchdown passes by a running back. His jersey number was retired by the Bears, and in 1993 he would be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now, the couple things that do bear out mind that are kind of an interesting footnote, a lot of people are like, well, later on, Emmitt Smith broke that rushing record. And, nothing to take away from Emmitt Smith. He got the numbers. A lot of people look at the fact that when you look at how the Cowboys built that team, he was running behind a wall that anybody could get yardage with. That's what they were designed to do. Walter Payton, two of the things that were always fun to watch with him, and this is from a kid growing up watching a black and white TV, Walter Payton had this stick that was called a stutter step. And if he was running up the sideline and a player was trying to cut him off, what he would do is he would make a jump to the outside like he was going to go out of bounds, and then cut back and nail the guy that was trying to tackle him. And it would always surprise the heck out of these opposing players. They were thinking, oh, we're going to be able to liven up a little bit because he's heading for the out of bounds markers. That was all his play. He had the nickname of Sweetness because he was always an easygoing guy. He carried the motto of "Never Die Easy," which is a title of his published autobiography. He picked it up from one of his coaches at Jackson State. And in practice, that meant that Payton refused to deliberately run out of bounds and always delivered some punishment to his tacklers. Sometimes he would get hit, and it would surprise the defenses because he would pop up, slap you on the butt, and go right back to play. You're like, I should have just killed you. Yeah, nice tackle, man. Just for running back to the field. In the autobiography, he also likened the stutter step to a kind of option play where the stutter stepping defenders would have to commit to a pursuit angle based on whether they thought he would accelerate after the stutter step or cut. He would read this angle and do the opposite of what the defender had committed to, kind of jooting him out of his own shoes. Now, he also reinvented the practice of the stiff arm, his tacklers, which had gone out of favor among running backs in the 70s. At times, he used his high school experience as a long jumper to leap over opponents, landing on his head in the end zone to gain a touchdown in a game against the Buffalo Bills. His running gait was sometimes unusual, his knees were minimally bent, and the motion was largely powered from the hip. This might have given his knees, a football player's most vulnerable joints, some protection, although he underwent arthroscopic surgery on both knees in 1983. He referred to this procedure as the 11,000-yard checkup. Well, after scoring touchdowns, this is another little tidbit. Everybody's like spiking, rolling, dancing, in the end zones. Payton declined to celebrate. Instead, he would often hand the ball to his teammates or to the official. He disapproved of the growing practice of touchdown celebrations. He preferred post-game antics, such as rushing into the locker room and locking his teammates out of the locker room.
That would be fun.
Out in the cold while taking a long shower. Although Payton would have won the respect by his peers and coaches by his running alone, he retired as the career leader on receptions as a running back, and still holds the career record for the running back with 8 touchdown passes. Now, throughout his life, he claimed the date of his birth is July the 25th, 1954, a date that is cited in many of his early biography. There were some that think that his birth year originally was 1953, a year prior. Perlman, a person from Sports Illustrated, actually found the correct date, and that was found during his hunt for the pursuit of the Heisman Trophy at Jackson State. But Payton was inducted as a laureate of the Lincoln Academy of Illinois and awarded the Order of Lincoln by the governor of Illinois in 1987 in the area of sports. And in 1988, he received the Golden Plate Award as the American Academy of Achievement. A couple side notes that they do mention is apparently in 1987 he also had an accidental gun go off.
Oops.
He shot a manager of a nightclub in Schaumburg, Illinois that he owned. Payton had recently bought a 9mm French-made Morin pistolet for his collection and was unaware that it was loaded. The pistol, which was described as a collector's handgun, was registered, discharged while being handed to Payton by a third party, while pointed at the nightclub manager, Elmer Roy Hudson Jr. Hudson suffered knee damage from the shooting. And sadly, he did battle with depression after his playing career ended. His agent, Bud Holmes, recalled Payton talked about the issue. He was able to battle his way through, and as a Christian, Payton attended the non-denominational Destiny Church in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, in the years following his retiring from football. A couple ventures that he did try after he retired. One was that he tried to bring in an expansion team to St. Louis during the 90s. Payton expressed interest in becoming the first minority owner of an NFL team in history. Although the NFL strongly favored a franchise in St. Louis, the efforts were thwarted because of internal dissension among the investment group members. This led to the NFL to award the franchise investment groups to Jacksonville and Charlotte. St. Louis eventually received the team when the Rams moved to the city in 1995. Payton also pursued various business ventures in retirement, including becoming a co-owner of a Dale Coyne Racing in the IndyCar World Series. He drove several Trans Am Series events, including a 1993 race at Road America, in which the car overturned and caught fire. He suffered burns but escaped serious injury. In 1995, he and several partners purchased a roundhouse in Aurora, Illinois, that had previously belonged to the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy Railroad. The property became known as Walter Payton's Roadhouse, hosting a restaurant, brewery, banquet, meeting facility, and museum. In 1999, the property received a reward for the National Trust of Historic Preservation. The beers brewed at the Roundhouse received awards in the 2000s. And in popular culture, Payton would appear in a 1987 episode of Saturday Night Live along with Joe Montana. That same year, he participated in the Prince Edward of the United Kingdom's charity television special, The Grand Knockout Tournament. In 1994, he made an appearance at the World Wrestling Federation's SummerSlam event in the corner of Razor Ramon. Now, in February 1999, Payton announced that he had a rare liver disease known as primary sclerosing cholangitis, which may have led to his bile duct cancer. He spent his final months as an advocate for organ transplants, appearing in many commercials to encourage others to donate organs. Although by the time his first appeal was recorded, his illness was already too far advanced for the transplantation to have made a viable option. In April of that year, Payton made a final public appearance at the Chicago Cubs game with Mike Ditka, where he threw out the game's ceremonial first pitch. Author Don Yeager worked with him during the last weeks of his life to create his autobiography, Never Die Easy. And on November the 1st, 1999, Payton died from the complications that arose from his illness. He was only 46 years old.
Wow.
During that same week, the NFL held special ceremonies in each game to commemorate his career and legacy. In addition, the Chicago Bears wore special 34 patches on their jerseys to honor Payton. And speakers at his public funeral, held in Soldier Field, included the National Football League Commissioner Paul Tagliabue, former teammate Dan Hampton, his widow Connie Payton, and their children Jarrett and Brittany. Among the 1,000 mourners at the private service were John Madden, Illinois Governor George Ryan, Chicago's Mayor Richard M. Daley, former teammates Matt Suhey, Mike Singletary, Roland Harper, and Jim McMahon, and the Bears equipment manager and building superintendent. Interesting enough, the legacy still continues to this day. The charitable Walter and Connie Payton Foundation, his own appeals, and after his death, his foundations, were for greater awareness for the need of organ donations, were widely credited with bringing national attention to the problem. After his appeals, donations in Illinois skyrocketed, and the Regional Organ Bank of Illinois was overwhelmed with calls. In response, the city of Chicago inserted organ donation requests into the city vehicle registration mailings in early 2000, and by August 2000, 13,000 people had signed on to the program. The foundation continues to run a program that Payton organized to donate toys to underprivileged children across the Chicago area each Christmas. The family established the Walter Payton Cancer Fund in 2002. Pro Football Focus founder Neil Hornsby in 2010 named Payton as the greatest player in the NFL history, and many modern NFL running backs have cited Payton as their source of inspiration. Emmett Smith tearfully paid homage to Payton after breaking his rushing record, and LaDainian Tomlinson, who set numerous records during his 2006 NFL season, named Payton as one of his foremost mentors and inspirations. Along with Ahman Green, the former player for the Bears rivals and the Green Bay Packers, was said to have idolized Payton, viewing each highlight film pure Payton before each game. Walter's own son, Jared Payton, was a running back for the Tennessee Titans, the NFL Europe's Amsterdam Admirals, the CFL's Montreal Owlets, the IFL's Chicago Slaughter, and during his tenure at the University of Miami, Jarrett wore a 34 jersey to honor his father's memory. And in 2009, Jarrett married on March 4th, 3-4, as intentionally set to coincide with Payton's jersey number.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah. Now, one thing that was also kind of a neat touch that I remember is that one of his most vivid memories is during the times when he would go and run this course. And it was outside of the city, and basically it would run right by this football field. It was called Nickel Knoll Hill, old landfill that was turned into a golf course in Arlington Heights. Was renamed Payton's Hill. There are 2 plaques on the hill to remind visitors of the hill. This is where Payton used to train in the 70s and 80s. He would do his morning run at the hill every day.
Wow.
And it's literally straight up this. It'd be like us going up M Hill.
Ugh.
Yeah, I can't see us doing. No, I'm good. And as a last memorial, the asteroid 85386 Payton, discovered by the Air Force Maui Optical and Supercomputing Observatory in 1996, is named in Payton's memory. So, nothing like a body in space to be named after one of the best running backs ever. So, but today was his birthday, and we still miss him. So, this has been the Bearded Historian. You folks have a good one, and we'll see you next week.